Hey, everybody. What's up? What a beautiful time to be alive. It's happening. I don't know. I'm just saying catchphrases. Welcome to Momentous Clarity. Moment of Clarity. Thanks for being here. Please take a second to share this. Let folks know. Click the thumbs up. Do all that good stuff. Let's get into what has happened, what has come down in the Julian Assange case and what's going on with Assange. Many of you know that he's been, essentially tortured via solitary confinement in prison for years now, over 2 years in Belmarsh prison, 7 years in the Ecuadorian embassy, trying to avoid extradition to the United States, where he faces 175 years for telling us the truth. 175 years for actually breaking the fucking corporate media's stranglehold on truth, while they do stenography for the State Department, spitting out every garbage propaganda bullshit, fucking rotting carcass of infectious disease-ridden crap that the government wants you to believe. While they do that, Julian Assange, for telling us the truth, he's facing 175 years if he gets extradited to the United States. And they figured their next best thing, if they can't do that, is to just keep him locked up in Belmarsh in Britain, because at least then they figure, well, he's suffering, so at least we're setting an example. So, as most of you know, the trial is over, but the Biden administration is appealing it because Biden is a sociopathic, warmongering piece of shit, as was Trump. And they are continuing to do the thing that Trump did, which was prosecute Assange. Now they're appealing it. Basically, what the British court said is that they believed everything that was presented against Assange, every crime that was given against Assange by the U.S. Department of Justice, they believed. They said, yep, all true. What a horrible human being. We're only not extraditing him because of how horrific U.S. prisons are, and he might take his life. That is the only reason. So they believed all of this stuff. Now, a lot of it, well, basically all of it, for all of it that can fall apart has fallen apart. So one of the last remaining little fucking balsa wood twigs that the Department of Justice's case against Assange had was this key witness. Everything else they brought up has been debunked. I mean, initially it was the rape allegations, which were not really rape allegations. Both women have said they were pressured to say things against Assange. All they really wanted was an HIV test. All of that has fallen apart. The Swedish government had an investigation, never brought charges, never had any reason to bring charges, never could prove that anything had been done forcefully or without consent against these women, and wanted to drop the case. And leaked emails show that they were pressured into keeping the allegations going. There were no charges, by the way, ever. And ultimately, so that all fell apart. The thing about, him pressuring, they tried to say he pressured Chelsea Manning to give him to give Assange the data on the U.S. military, the Iraq war logs, etc. She has always maintained that he did not, that he didn't do anything that was illegal. So that fell apart. And so one of the things they had left was this eyewitness, which I'll now be getting into the details about. And this is from an article that just came out. A major witness in the U.S. Department of Justice case against Julian Assange has admitted to fabricating key accusations in the indictment against the WikiLeaks founder. The witness, who has a documented history with sociopathy and has received several convictions for sexual abuse of minors and wide-ranging financial fraud. This sounds like the FBI's kind of guy, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound like the FBI, CIA, U.S. government, Department of Justice? They'd be like, that's our guy. That's that guy sounds great. You said sociopath with a history of sex crimes. That's our guy. Besides the fact that it just sounds like it'd make a good case, we just want to spend some time with him, really. We just want to, hang out. He sounds like a good guy. Sounds like he might have some advice for us on all the stuff we're involved in. So, yeah, wide-ranging fraud. Oh, my God. I mean, you had me at sex crimes, but wide-ranging fraud? Come on. Come on. We got to hang out with this guy. He sounds awesome. So the witness, who has documented history, blah, 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 I just read that part, abuse of minors, wide-ranging financial fraud, made the admission that he had lied in a newly published interview in Stunden, which is the outlet that is also writing this article, where he also confessed to having continued his crime spree whilst working with the DOJ and FBI and receiving a promise of immunity from prosecution. That's right. He's continued his crimes. And while he's supposed to be an eyewitness against Assange, he's still committing crimes. And you'd think at some point the FBI or someone might be like, hey, could you just hold off for 10 minutes with your crimes so that we could pretend you're a legitimate witness? Because that would just be totally awesome. If you could just just a few minutes, just stop with all the fraud and the lying and the shit. I mean, we want you to lie for us. So hold on, let me rephrase that. Don't stop lying fully. Just keep doing our lies. We need you to lie about Assange, but just stop the other stuff. Just put that on hold, back burner time while you lie for us. The man in question, Sigurdur Torderson, who goes by Siggy, or at least people have been calling him Siggy. Torderson, I think I have that right. It's Icelandic. It doesn't, pronouncing Icelandic wrong doesn't really count as wrong. Because listen, folks, if you want us to pronounce anything correctly, don't put that many consonants in a row. Don't stick 3 extra Ks in there. That's your own fault. At that point, your own fault, So Siggy was recruited by U.S. authorities to build a case against Assange after misleading them to believe he was previously a close associate of his. So he misled the FBI and the DOJ, and then they kept being well, he's all we got, so let's just keep using him, even though he was lying to us about being really important in the WikiLeaks organization. To continue from the article, in fact, he had volunteered on a limited basis to raise money for WikiLeaks in 2010, but was found to have used that opportunity to embezzle more than 50 grand from WikiLeaks. So this guy's a straight up criminal, even against WikiLeaks, not just since WikiLeaks, but while he was in WikiLeaks. And the FBI was yeah, that's our guy. That guy's awesome. U.S. officials presented an updated version of an indictment against him to a magistrate court in London last summer. The veracity of the information contained therein is now directly contradicted by the main witness whose testimony it is based on. The court documents purport to show that Assange instructed Thordarson to commit computer intrusions or hacking in Iceland. So that was their big thing. That was one of the big things that the DOJ said against Assange. Yes, you told this guy to hack for you in Iceland. They were like, or even if all of our other shit falls apart, even if all the Chelsea Manning shit falls apart, we still got this. You told so-and-so to hack Icelandic banks, etc. in Iceland. Boom, we got him. And it's all based on this fucking known criminal, known sociopath, known sex criminal. The aim of this addition to the indictment was apparently to shore up and support the conspiracy charge against Assange in relation to his interactions with Chelsea Manning. Those occurred around the same time he resided in Iceland, and the authors of the indictment felt they could strengthen their case by alleging he was involved in illegal activity there as well. Not just strengthen their case, they had no case. They fucking had no case. So this was it. This was what they could use. The fucking Sweden thing fell apart because there was nothing there. The Chelsea Manning stuff fell apart because there was nothing there. Chelsea Manning made her own choice to leak that stuff. It was not Assange. This activity was said to include attempts to hack, this is what he was accused of, attempts to hack into computers of members of parliament in Iceland and record their conversations. Thordarson now admits that Assange never asked him to hack or access phone recordings of the members of parliament. His new claim is that he had in fact received some files from a third party who claimed to have recorded MPs and had offered to share them with Assange without having any idea what they actually contained. He claims he never checked the contents of the files or even if they contained audio recordings, as his third-party source suggested. He further admits the claim that Assange had instructed or asked him to access computers in order to find any such recordings is false. On every step of some sort of crime against Assange, it's all false. And even if you were to fucking believe this guy up till now, which why would you? This is a fucking known criminal, sociopath, and continues to commit crimes. And by working with the DOJ, the FBI, he was able to get leniency on other crimes. So you shouldn't have believed him up till now. No one should have. But now he's also admitted that he lied. Nonetheless, the tactics employed by U.S. officials appear to have been successful, as can be gleaned from the ruling of the magistrate judge Vanessa Barrister on January 4th of this year. She was the one who decided not to extradite Assange based on the fact that U.S. prisons are so horrible, which this is about to say. Although she ruled against extradition, she did so purely on humanitarian grounds. With regards to the actual accusations made in the indictment, Barrister sided with the arguments of the American legal team. And by the way, keep in mind, Assange was kept in a fucking glass cage during the entire trial, barely allowed to speak to his lawyers, barely allowed to prepare a defense, not given like internet access, not even allowed to see most of the charges against him until like a week before or days before. I think a week was too much. I think it was days before. I mean, it was the biggest fucking kangaroo bullshit court you could imagine. And on top of that, this motherfucking Siggy dude was also lying. More deceptive language emerges in the aforementioned judgment where it states, this is the judgment against Assange by Barrister. It states, quote, Assange used the unauthorized access given to him by a source to access a government website of NATO country 1, which means Iceland, used to track police vehicles, unquote. This depiction leaves out an important element, one that Thordarson clarifies in his interview with Stundin. The login information was in fact his own and not obtained through nefarious means. In fact, he now admits he had been given this access as a matter of routine due to his work as a first responder, which wouldn't you love to have that guy as your first responder? Hey, aren't you the sex criminal that was running a financial fraud on my mother? Yeah, that's me. So anyway, lay down, sir. I'm gonna do some CPR here on you. I don't think I need CPR. It's actually my arm. Just lay down, sir. Lay down. So yeah, yet again, this is another lie to catch Assange. They say it claimed Assange hacked into these things, but in fact, this was access given to Thordarson because he was a first responder. Furthermore, another name I can't pronounce, Ögmundur Jónasson, was Minister of the Interior at the time, and as such, the political head of police and prosecution, and says of the U.S. activities, they were trying to use things here in Iceland and use people in our country to spin a web that would catch Julian Assange. So Icelandic authorities have admitted and realized that the FBI and the DOJ were trying to entrap Assange in some sort of crime, despite the fact that Assange was not committing crimes. So they're trying to find a way to accuse him of something, anything. Siggy had been nicknamed Siggy the hacker in Iceland. That is actually an antonym or a name making fun of him, as several sources have claimed that Thordarson's computer ability is menial, meaning he was called a hacker as like a joke. This is supported by several chat logs and documents where he is requesting assistance from others doing rather uncomplicated computer jobs. Once he even sought an FBI expert help him in uploading a video from his own phone. Meaning, this guy knew nothing about hacking and yet claims that he was working with Assange on hacking in to members of parliament's fucking private emails and shit. And yet he clearly doesn't know hacking. According to a psychiatric assessment presented to the court, Thordarson was diagnosed as a sociopath, incapable of remorse, but still criminally culpable for his actions. He was assessed by to be able to understand the basic difference between right and wrong. He just didn't seem to care, which yet again, perfect ally for the U.S. government. The U.S. government was like, oh, this guy doesn't give a shit about right or wrong. He's a sociopath. All right, we can work with that. Listen, sometimes there's a long get to know you process with these witnesses and informants. But this one sounds like we're gonna hit it off real quick. We are just best buds. First phone call hit the ground running. He's a sociopath already. We got something to talk about. Already we got an icebreaker there, right? FBI, we're with the FBI. You're a sociopath. So are we. Right there. Right. It's kind of like, what? Your brother went to University of Virginia. So did mine. It's like it's like that with the FBI. When they get to talk to a sociopath on the phone, they're like, you're a sociopath too? All right. And just going, best buds, right from the get-go. All right, I'm almost to the end here. It is as if the offer of immunity, later secured and sealed in a meeting in D.C. that Thordarson has gotten, that Siggy has gotten, it's almost as if the offer of immunity had encouraged him to take bolder steps in crime. He started to fleece individuals and companies on a grander scale than ever, usually by either acquiring or forming legal entities he then used to borrow merchandise, rent luxury cars, even order large quantities of goods from wholesalers without any intention to pay for these goods and services. So this guy's he's got his crime spree on lock, just fucking driving around in cars he doesn't know and grabbing shit it's not his, not paying for shit. He's just got his crime game on lock. And meanwhile, this is the key witness against Julian Assange. Even if you wanted to believe the bullshit against Assange, does that not make you pause and go, this doesn't sound like a real, solid witness? When confronted with the evidence of all these crimes by a journalist, he simply admitted to everything and explained it away as normal business practice, all the fraud he's committing. He has not yet been charged and is still practicing this normal business practice of stealing lots of shit. Local newspaper DV reported last week that he had attempted to order other merchandise on credit using a company name, which was Icelandic Vermin Control. Kind of ironic there, too. Was he planning on going after the FBI? Because we could use the Icelandic Vermin Control on them. But despite using a fake name and a COVID mask to cover his identity, he was identified and the transaction was stopped. He was last seen speeding away in a white Tesla, which likely he does not own. So that's the key witness left against Julian Assange. And it's just all collapsed. And finally, I want to show you, this is a tweet from Niels Meltzer, formerly with the UN, or maybe currently with the UN, I can't remember, but dismantling the persecution of Assange. 2019, UK torture and arbitrariness exposed. 2019, Swedish rape allegations collapsed. They actually collapsed earlier, but they collapsed again in 2019. 2020, embassy surveillance exposed. There was a huge scandal where it came out that they were surveilling everything that Assange did in the Ecuadorian embassy. 2021, U.S. prisons declared inhumane. 2021, U.S. hacking allegations collapse. Time to end this travesty. So that's from Niels Meltzer, who is the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, Human Rights Chair, Geneva Academy, Professor of International Law, University of Glasgow, Vice President of IIHL. So, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. So that's where the case, so-called case against Assange stands. It's fucking non-existent. And yet they continue to torture him in Belmarsh prison. It's insane. And here's the thing. You shouldn't just be furious at fucking Britain for keeping him in prison. You should be furious at Joe Biden and the Biden administration, who have appealed this to try and can keep him in Belmarsh prison, to try and extradite him and give him 175 years in the United States. You should be furious at our mainstream media for not fucking standing up and talking about this and demanding his freedom. I mean, our mainstream media, every one of them, you could just point to and say, you are a sack of shit because you have never stood up for Julian Assange, who has the same goddamn job that you supposedly have. But the truth is, they don't have the same job, right? Julian Assange was in the business of actually telling people the truth. Our corporate media is in the business of lying to you and doing whatever is necessary to give the oligarchy, the ruling elites, viewpoint on the world, prop up the American empire. And so they're in two different businesses, but ostensibly, same business. You should probably be upset that this guy's in fucking prison, but they're not, because they're complete ass clowns, and it's about time people stopped listening to a word they said. And yeah, that's the show for today. If you donated, all the donations go to people who are struggling. And you can, if you're not watching this live, you can also donate on Venmo at Lee Camp. If you want to support my work, you can go to liberapay.com/Lee Camp, liberapay.com/Lee Camp. And yeah, what else? There's a new Government Secrets coming out. Check that out on your podcast platforms. There's a new Common Censor. There's a new Redacted Tonight about all the times the U.S. government has used bioweapons on us, on our own citizens. I'm not kidding. If you haven't learned this history, then you got to learn it. Go to leecamp.com. Watch the new episode of Redacted Tonight. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Keep fighting.